captioning sponsored by Superior Toyota Hyundai and WVU Medicine Camden Clark.
The snow has already come through and turned to slush, which will freeze in place overnight. Philippi City Council passes a resolution to place a renewal levy for $1.75 million in support of fire and emergency services on the May ballot. Meteorologist Kurt Greenfield has your forecast, and Ryan Wilson joins us in sports. WTAP News at 11 starts now.
Live from our studios at One Television Plaza, this is WTAP News at 11.
Another round of snow hits the Mid-Ohio Valley. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Phyllis Smith. Another round of snow today hitting the Mid-Ohio Valley. It started falling around 3 p.m. and roads started to deteriorate by 6 p.m. Minor wrecks were reported in both Wood and Washington counties. Washington County is under a level 2 snow advisory right now. We got about an inch tonight and it will freeze in place. There are over 30 school closings posted on WTAP.com. Speaking of the weather, meteorologist Kirk Greenfield joins us now with the first look at your forecast. Kirk.
Well, a number of counties all on level 2 at this point in Ohio. The exceptions being Monroe and Meigs counties, perhaps at a level 1. At this point, most of the snowfall is all over with. So as we look at the Jan Dills Marietta Skycam atop the Lafayette Hotel, 34 degrees. It feels like 28. The winds out of the west at 7 and the relative humidity 92%. The barometer is climbing at 29.83 inches and rising, as I mentioned. Well, the roads have to be plowed and salted and treated at this point. We were anticipating being about 34 at midnight with showers coming to an end. At this point, we're pretty much over that, and we'll be dropping down to 23, 22 before we start tomorrow. So it'll be frozen in place and much harder to shovel unless they've already been treated. I'll talk more about the forecast to come when I return. Back to you.
Thank you, Kirk. The COVID-19 pandemic caused many people to wonder how they would pay rent and keep food on the table. That's where the Mountaineer Rental Assistance Program stepped in to help. Curtis Johnson looks into why that program recently had to return money to the federal government.
West Virginia recently returned nearly $3.5 million in COVID relief funds, money that was meant to help with rental assistance and other items. But officials we interviewed said no one needs to worry. There's plenty of money on hand. West Virginia has spent $46 million in rental and utility assistance to help about 13,000 impacted by financial hardship associated with COVID-19. The relief has stopped evictions, kept elderly folks in homes, and turned on the water for families with newborn babies.
COVID put a lot of people in that situation that had never been in that situation before. They'd never faced those kinds of difficulties.
But an enormous amount of federal assistance remains unspent. That's why the U.S. Treasury recently took $3.3 million from West Virginia and gave it to other states in need.
Some states got proportionately more than they needed, and many states got proportionately less than they needed. I believe looking at our population, looking at the fact that we have more home ownership than renters, I do believe we got more than we needed.
And West Virginia is not alone. Ohio returned nearly $3.7 million. Smaller states returned even more, $21.6 million in South Dakota and a whopping $33.1 million in Idaho.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think that this is completely normal and how Congress expected this to work.
West Virginia has another $33 million in benefits ready to be paid out soon. It also has revamped its application portal, added additional processors, and contracted with outside help to move applications faster. Those improvements are working, but Bogus still anticipates more money will be recouped.
So even if every single application were funded, West Virginia would still not meet the spending ratios that Treasury is requiring.
Those interviewed said nobody is to blame.
I mean, it comes back to need. If we fund every single application we have and we don't spend all the money, then clearly we've met the need.
Bogus encourages anyone who has been on the fence wondering if they would be eligible for assistance to apply. Curtis Johnson, WSAZ News Channel 3, Charleston.
If you need help, you can apply for Mountaineer Rental Assistance Program by going to the West Virginia Housing Development Fund's website, or you can call 866-623-6284. That number is at the bottom of your screen. All of the information is there to help you learn if your family is eligible. It was business as usual for Belpre City Council Monday evening. Several measures were rushed through to beat state deadlines. Belpre City Council passed a resolution to place a renewal levy for $1.75 million in support of fire and emergency services on the May ballot. The deadline for submission to the Board of Elections is February 2nd, so Council passed the second and third readings of the resolution tonight to make the deadline. In other news, discussion continued over what to do about the residency requirement for the Safety Services Director. She has been in the position for 2 years now, but it is unclear whether Belpre has a waiver for residency in place or if Ohio State Code takes priority. The city law director will continue to research the issue. Removed Wood County GOP Chair Rob Cornelius appears before the Wood County Commission today following his win in court. Rather than meeting in the commission office, they gathered in a larger room at 317 Market Street to promote social distancing. Cornelius says he is still waiting to learn about his status with the Wood County Republican Executive Committee, as well as the status of anyone appointed since his ousting in 2019. That information will come in a court order that he hopes to receive this week. The meeting also included approving the nomination of Angela Brunicardi-Doss to the Wood County Community Corrections Advisory. According to Commissioner Blair Couch, she has already agreed to serve. Next week, the commission says they will be hearing from both the Lubeck and Mineral Wells public service districts to sort out a deal for extending water lines. WVU Medicine releases its new date for all employees to be fully vaccinated. All staff members are required to be fully vaccinated by March 15th of this year. Full vaccination status includes 2 shots of Pfizer or Moderna or 1 full shot of the J&J vaccine. Medical exemptions can be granted, but those employees will then have to wear an approved N95 mask at all times. This date and status applies to all WVU Medicine employees who work in West Virginia and Ohio. Authorities say an officer at a West Virginia women's prison is the 3rd corrections employee to die from COVID. Paula Jo Tomlin was an officer at the Lakin Correctional Center in Mason County. The Department of Homeland Security says she died Saturday at a hospital in Gallipolis, Ohio. 2 other corrections officers from Marshall and Pleasants counties died of COVID-19 last year. According to health statistics, there were 559 active virus cases among inmates and residents of correctional facilities as of Friday, along with 190 active cases involving corrections officers. Statewide, the past 2 weeks have seen the highest number of virus cases recorded during the pandemic. Still ahead, experts say large tax returns, but also long delays are expected for this tax season. That story is next at 11.
Well, it was a mix of snow and drizzle this evening, making the roads slick. But how low will we go tonight? That's next.
Tonight's news poll is sponsored by Mother Earth Foods and by the Basement